We're live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra and Kumasi on Love 99.5 FM. We are on over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We are on radio, a news conference by the Ghana Statistical Service. Also, worsening economic conditions forcing some Ghanaians to seek a way out of the country, with many turning to the U.S. diversity visa lottery.
I just want to leave to the U.S. That's all. Because you know the hardship.
Yeah, Barbara Boningo, and you say, Americans who had here.
We have details of that. Also, Supreme Court unanimously dismisses case seeking to have some members of parliament refund double salaries earned between 2009 and 2016. We have the very latest from the Supreme Court. Also respects the relationship and demands of your electorate. Failure to do so is a deprivation of justice. This is the message to elected officials from His Eminence Cardinal Peter Kwejo Appiah Texan as he rallies support for a collective growth of society.
At elections, we elect a government. And so we create a government. There is a relationship created, and that obliges us to respect the demands of this relationship.
And our strike by teachers in the country's public basic and second cycle institutions enters the third straight day. Parents say they are worried about the negative impact of the action. We'll take you live to the National Labour Commission, where they are meeting teachers to try and resolve the matter. In sports,
we'll bring you up to speed on Ghana's 29-man squad for the World Cup as Coach Otoado informs dropped players from the list.
And much later, lotto operators and writers in Ghana are resisting plans by the NLA to reduce the commission for writers from 30 to 20%.
We pay 20% commission to the LMCs. So if we leave a market which people decide to pay a certain percentage of commission to themselves, we thought that was unfair.
We'll get to hear from the NLA as well. That and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for choosing us. This is your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Please stay for details. Many thanks for choosing us once again. We'll settle for the details. And Ghana's inflation for the month of October 2022 was 40.4%. Up 37.2% in September 2022. Food inflation, non-alcoholic beverages contribute to the highest rate of 40.0%. Housing, gas, water, electricity, diesel and petrol all contributed significantly to this new rate. Supreme Court we'll be talking more about this particular situation, and Raymond Akwa and Winston Amwa are with our research desk and are here with me on this. But I'll start with Raymond. What exactly is the summary of this particular report?
So let's do the main elements of food and non-food inflation. Food inflation was 43.7%, a bit higher than the average inflation. Non-food inflation was actually slightly lower than the average inflation. Now let's look at it from this perspective too. Inflation for locally produced items was 39.1%, and inflation for imported items was 43.7%, which means that inflation was predominantly from the imported items. And if you want to segregate it further, inflation for imported non-food was higher than inflation for imported food, but local foods equally was higher than the imported foods. So if you want to break it down to the lowest level, the elements of our inflation is predominantly from non-food imported items and also local foods. Those are the main areas. Now, if you take it down to what there are several divisions. If I go straight down to the items, there are 307 items that are considered here, which are actually contributing to our inflation. MFA, let's look first at diesel. Diesel went up by some 155%. Petrol too went up by 111%. And granules, the shelled ones. And these diesel and petrol are imported actually. And food, which is local, granules and palm oil, all went up by 111%, which are all local products. Now, washing soap, which is imported, is the next one, 104%. And also millet. Millet went up by 96%. Coconut oil also went up by 95%. And underwear, especially the one for women, which is imported, also went up for 89.2%. Now, Yes, Bambara beans is also on the increase with a very staggering 89%, and wheat flour is 85%. Now, okra showed a massive 77% inflationary rate, which has instant noodles, which is imported, actually went up by 78%. The other non-food ones are repair of tables and chairs, and also bathing soap, which is the toilet soap we have, which is equally imported, also went up by 83%. So the major contributors where we can target, be it imported or unimported, are just the ones I've listed to you.
Okay, 40.4%, Winston. For the ordinary person listening to us right now, what does it mean to us?
Well, Emefa, so Raymond has explained everything, but let me just make it clear that what it means is that our monetary policy rate is inflation targeted. And if you look at the trends, so in July, it was 19% monetary policy rate, and that would influence lending from the central bank to banks. And in fact, it would influence your lending also from the banks. Then it moves to 22% in August. And then in September, it moves to 24.5%. Now, if the Bank of Ghana deems it necessary to consider increasing the policy rate again, what it will mean is that lending rates may go up. What it would also then mean is that treasury bill rates could also go up. So in effect, that's what an inflation rate of 40.2% could mean, 40.4% could mean for you.
And we are in November already, and we are looking at the figures again. Would it likely go beyond what we're seeing?
Well, it depends. The MPC could decide to meet, and that's why I started by saying that if the Bank of Ghana deems it necessary to meet. If the Bank of Ghana deems it necessary to meet, and then it will mean that the Bank of Ghana may want to, consider our policy rate again. And once it considers the policy rate, a lot of things may change if it decides to do so.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Winston Amwa and Raymond Akwaso. Ghana's inflation for the month of October 2022 is now 40.4%. It was up 37.2% in September 2022. Now, the Minister for Food and Agriculture, Dr. Owusu-Efiri Akoto, says the high cost of transportation is not to blame for the soaring food prices. Inflation for October, now we've been telling you, is now 40.4%. But the minister says the analysis of the ministry does not point to transportation cost as the cause of the hikes, although he did not point out exactly what is causing the increase.
The difference in the prices cannot be accounted for by transport, because in each of the regions I went to, the presentation by the regional directors of agriculture on food price analysis was consistently the same. If you include transport, you include handling, local collections, and then all the way to Accra, you consistently get maybe 1/3. Whether it's maize, it's soya, it's plantain, it's yam, that's the magnitude. So transport alone cannot account for such a huge doubling or even tripling of the prices.
Well, the minister, while answering questions on the floor of Parliament, also defended his ministry's plans to bring food from local areas to Accra in order to compete with the high cost of food on the market.
And this is why the ministry is taking the suggestion of the Western North Regional Director that they should help at the farm gate to collect produce and bring it to my office at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture for the civil servants to benefit from the huge gap between the two. And we are actually taking this advice from them, and we are going to start next week to experiment that, and we see how it goes. Thank you.
Let me take you live to Parliament. Our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante, joins us with details. Kweku, how are the MPs relating to the answers given by the Agric Minister?
So, the Finance Committee just finished the meeting. Have Dr. Atufo saying 40% inflation rate. How do you answer that?
It's unbelievable. It's so scary. The question I ask myself is, this is Ghana Fiscal Service speaking, the official state institution that is supposed to measure inflation. They've come out to tell us that inflation is 40.4%. What about the unofficial rate? So today, I feel, even though they have announced inflation at 40.4, I feel that inflation is in the middle of hundreds because it doesn't add up. What is happening? What did Ghana do wrong to deserve this? For us to see inflation moving from just above 12-13% within a year to jump all the way to 40%, something has terribly gone wrong. And that is why I expect the government to take pragmatic steps. And I hope the central bank is going to take us. The Bank of Ghana that is supposed to do the inflation targeting, I expect them to call for an immediate monetary policy committee meeting to tackle inflation. Because what they are doing is wishy-washy. It's not good enough.
So you just heard the ranking member on the finance committee saying that the Bank of Ghana must be taking some measures. Indeed, on the floor of the House, MPs were not so satisfied with the answers the ministers gave. They wanted him to give the real reason why food prices are up. He suggested that it may be due to excessive profiteering, but that is something his ministry can put a stamp on. Emefa.
What else is expected to happen in Parliament, though?
So the finance committee is expected to meet to look at a number of government work business. But currently, the minister have a number of questions, mainly due to food prices and other said diseases of plants across the country to answer, and is currently doing so on the floor.
That's our parliamentary affairs correspondent, Kwekwa Sante. Well, we know Ghana has been through tough times in years past. However, in present times, it appears things have gotten worse. We are talking about inflation at 40.4% as at the end of October. Many are looking for an escape route out of the current economic crisis. For some, the idea of traveling abroad in search of greener pastures has become more appealing. They've therefore opted for the American visa lottery. Tracy Asamoah and Lois Tay visited some registration centers. Here's what they found.
To put it delicately, times are hard.
I came to do shopping for the house and we couldn't buy anything.
What were you coming to buy?
Tomatoes, pepper and onion. Common room, this one for 5 cedis, room.
But here, under the overpass at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, some people are finding ways to escape. Their route, the American visa lottery.
I usually do it. Not because of any reason or the other. It's because I just want to leave to the US, that's all. Because you know the hardship, and then, things are not going well as it used to be.
The country is sad, so opportunity like this, they have to grab it with both hands, else to skip. That's what I'm trying. If maybe the
attendance here says registration for this year's visa lottery has increased significantly compared to the previous years.
So it's 1,561. That's for the past 4 weeks I've been here.
Well, that's Tracy and Lois Tay's interaction with some Ghanaians there at you. Well, let's turn our attention to education front, and parents of pupils at public basic schools in the Ashanti region are worried the awards may fall prey to unscrupulous individuals as they stay out of the classrooms. The teacher unions have declared a nationwide strike that enters day 3 today over the appointment of Dr. Eric Nkansa and other conditions of service of teachers. Talks between the teacher unions and government stalled on Tuesday after the teachers were summoned to appear before the National Labour Commission. Love FM's Emmanuel Bright-Kriko reports some pupils were asked to return home by school authorities on Wednesday.
These students of the Bomso MA Primary and JHS just returned from school after meeting no teacher at their school. After dressing up for school, they had hoped the doors to their classrooms would be opened for teaching.
Everybody was not there, so we just said that we are going home.
I did not go to school yesterday, so I decided to go today thinking I would meet someone there. But I did not see anyone when I went there.
I am hoping they will resume school so we can have our exams. We are about writing our midterm examinations. I will only stay glued to the TV set. I won't take my books to learn.
me be smack and me coffee. Me and Yadia, ufa buku, cry, and you'll bet me a feel is a wusiadi. Oh, feel is a wusiadi. They school and friends for you. Oh, me and Siadi, and you're baby to my boy, bet my Akoba come yet me a share.
Maybe they fear me, no one. And never they say it's nephew,
I'm not happy we are home because I'll be doing nothing. I'll just roam about. It's been 3 days since teachers across the country boycotted class in protest against the appointment of Dr. Eric Nkansa as the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. A number of basic schools in the Ashanti region have been closed in adherence to the directive. Both children and parents are at the receiving end of the industrial action. Some parents are worried.
We are worried our wards will lag behind in academics. They should resolve the issue quickly. When they are home, they will only roam about and might be abducted by these kidnappers. It's not safe for them to stay out of school. Until the teachers are back in the classroom, these students would continue to wander about. For Joy News, Emmanuel Kweku reporting.
Well, the National Labour Commission is currently locked in a meeting with the teachers and government in an attempt to resolve the solution. My colleague Richard Kojonyako is there for us. He will join us subsequently. But let me take you to the Supreme Court now. And the Apex Court has in a unanimous decision dismissed the case filed by NPP Bono Regional Chairman Kwame Bafo alias Abronya DC against some former and current members of Parliament. Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu and 10 others were named in this action as receiving double salaries contrary to law. Abronya DC had argued that the actions of the affected individuals were inconsistent with the constitution. He wanted them to be ordered to refund the money. Well, this request has been turned down. Joseph Akable is our court correspondent. He joins us live. He's been monitoring proceedings. Joseph, run us through the list of former and current MPs the suit had alleged received double salaries.
On the far side, minority also after Abdullah.
No, we have a terrible connection to you, Joseph. Let's reconnect while you reposition yourself so we can go back to Joseph Akable. Can I try again? Joseph, do I have a better connection to you? Running us through the former and current MPs.
So they include, aside from Haruna Idrisu, the minority leader, there is Emmanuel Kofi Boa, Alhassan Zong, Makoyongo, among others who are part of this particular action that was filed by Abronya.
And the AG's department, however, had some concerns about the Apex Court's decision?
Yes, the point that was raised was that in terms of this particular process that was filed by the Bono East NPP regional chairman, they say that it's not a matter that should be coming to the Supreme Court, but should be going to a different forum, especially if he is suggesting that some crimes have been committed. And so the objection was to the effect that the court should dismiss the action because you cannot be seeking to have the Supreme Court interpret and enforce the Constitution when the said constitutional provision it relies on was simply clear and did not require any interpretation.
Stay with me, Joseph. We'll stay a while longer in the court because the Attorney General, Godfred Yeboadami, says he's clothed with the mandate to represent the Speaker of Parliament in cases where his interest in the matter is not at variance with that of Parliament. Now, this was his response to a question posed by Supreme Court Judge Paul Bafoboni. It will be recalled that Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbing had criticized the Apex Court for not allowing him to be heard before setting aside a law passed by Parliament that allowed license to be granted for the cultivation of cannabis or weed in small quantities for industrial and medicinal purposes. Joseph, you tell us a bit more about this view expressed by the AG.
The Attorney General insists that as far as his interest in the matter is aligned with that of
the Speaker of Parliament and Parliament in that matter, then he can represent them. In fact, Justice Bonny had pointed out and asked the AG whether he was aware of the comments that have been made by the Speaker of Parliament. The Attorney General said yes, he was aware, and in fact, in his legal arguments filed in this particular case, he had actually addressed that point, and he intends to send a copy of those arguments to the Speaker of Parliament as a way of assuring him that his interest is well protected in this particular matter, and he'll be advancing arguments in advancing a particular position.
Okay, that's court correspondent Joseph Akable. Related matters, the former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Michael Quay, is calling for a review of the Supreme Court's ruling on the Martin Kpebu versus Attorney General case, which made all crimes bailable offences. He says the ruling opened the floodgates for the commitment of serious crime without impunity. Professor Michael Quay was speaking at an IAA seminar on reviewing the 1992 Constitution.
In a development-oriented constitution, human rights must assume a broader posture. For example, the recent controversy over the granting of bail should be regulated by the Constitution. In the case of Martin Kpebu versus Attorney General, the Supreme Court opened the floodgates for granting bail. According to the Supreme Court of Ghana, the provisions under the 1992 Constitution allowed for bail for virtually every offense in Ghana. To my mind, this is not a developmental approach and must be reconsidered. Economic sabotage today, as we glaringly see with Galamsey, for example, should mean a new bail approach. Offenses which are economic and undermining the economic resources we have, including gold, oil, lithium, et al., and other recovery efforts should be clearly identified.
Former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Quay. This is the Midday News. We are live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra, and Kumasi on Love 99.5 FM, over 30 affiliates. We are on Twitter Spaces, Facebook, myjoyonline.com. And guess what? Ghana's inflation surges for a 17th straight month. We've hit 40.4% at the end of October, and diesel, petrol, housing, water, gas, amongst others, contributing the highest. When we return, we have sports, and then respect the relationship and demands of your electorate. Failure to do so is a deprivation of justice. We hear from His Eminence Cardinal Peter Kweju Apia Texan.
At elections, we elect a government, and so we create a government. There is a relationship created, and that obliges us to respect the demands of this relationship.
And then lotto operators and writers in Ghana are resisting plans by the NLA to reduce the commission for writers from 30 to 20%. We'll be hearing from the NLA, which says it's asked nobody to reduce any commission.
We pay 20% commission to the LMCs. So if we leave a market which people decide to pay a certain percentage of commission to themselves, we thought that was unfair.
Charlie, in life, something must kill you. And for me, Rock GH, they kill me with juicy local shows, movies, and soaps all week, every week. See, from Monday to Thursday at 9 p.m., Office Palava kills me with laughter and kasa. Then at 9:30 p.m. from Monday to Friday, Odomu Wahala kills me with suspense and drama overload. Then third Friday of every month is Fresh New Movies Night. Tune in to Rock GH on DSTV channel 164 or GoTV channel 117. Rock GH, home of Ghanaian entertainment.
It's everywhere. The anticipation, the game, media football season. Enjoy massive discount. When you are talking class, then you are talking media. Media massive discount promo. The world's largest producer of major appliances, Media. From today, when you see Media, remember there is up to 50% discount on selected items. The news has reached your homes and it's on the streets.
Yes, media discount. Yeah, whoa.
Media kettle. Hey, media na papa da. Media discount. Yeah, whoa.
You've heard it all. Enter any media outlet around you and purchase your gas cooker, dispenser, fridge, water heater, toaster, washing machines, kettles, and many more. And the good news, up to 50% discount on selected items this season. Media football season.
Thanks for staying with us. Let's do sports. Mubarak, what do we have?
Yes, Emefa, like we said yesterday, the final 26-man squad will be announced this week. However, Coach Osuado has begun informing dropped players from the final list in the last 24 hours. Regulars at club level like Joseph Pentel and Jeffrey Schlupp have been dropped. My colleague Gary L. Smith has more.
The biggest talking point, perhaps, is of Crystal Palace man Jeffrey Schlupp. Social media and traditional media even were awash with comments of people essentially not understanding how a player as consistent as he is, with more than 200 Premier League games under his belt, and who plays in about 4 different positions, could not, as it were, make the final 26. There was also Majid Achimeru, the Anderlecht man, will not go to the World Cup in Qatar. Another big talking point that trended on social media was of Joseph Pentil. With 6 goals and 5 assists in 13 games, you'd hardly find a player in his position, either left wing or right wing, as prolific as he is or as consistent. He plays for Genk in Belgium, but he would not make the plane in Qatar. Felix Afenajan of Cremonese, formerly of Roma, will also not be on the plane. His entourage have confirmed to Joy Sports that Otuado called to deliver the news yesterday. We also understand that a final decision will be reached soon on Mubarak Wakaso, because the technical team are split on his usefulness for the team in the tournament, with some feeling that his tactical indiscipline could cost the side, while part of the team also feel that his experience will be invaluable in a team that is very youthful going to Qatar.
Yeah, Joy Sports editor there, Gary L. Smith.
So there will be no Jan, we can understand, but Pencil, I'm still wondering.
Well, 6 goals, 5 assists in 13 matches. I don't know why.
Okay, well, we'll see how it goes. They said we should still love the team, so we are still pledging our support for them. But Chancellor of the Vatican's Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences, His Eminence Cardinal Peter Kwejo Appiah-Texing, is calling on elected officials to respect the relationship that exists between them and the electorate. He's also asking them to meet the demand of his electorate. According to him, failure to do so amounts to deprivation of justice. He's been speaking at the UPSA's annual leadership lecture on leadership.
At elections, we elect a government, and so we create a government. There is a relationship created, and that obliges us to respect the demands of this relationship. And those who are elected also become also establish a relationship. And it's also up to them to respect the demands of the relationship of the electorate. So everything that encompasses our lives on earth are based on this relationship, and they're all governed by justice, respecting the demands of the relationship in which we live. Now, when justice is the procuring the good of the dignity of each one of us, then the question that comes up is, when we try to promote the dignity of everybody, we're working for their common good. Their common good is ensuring that the dignity that they have is protected and help to flourish. And the flourishing of the dignity of every person is the flourishing of his common being, is the flourishing of his common good. And this is a task of each one of us. It's not only a task for government, it's a task of each one of us. We need to work on making each one's dignity flourish. And to do that, there is the other principle that you call solidarity. Solidarity means you contribute, you make your contribution towards the well-being of the other person you live with.
That's His Eminence Peter Kwejo Appiah-Texing, and that's how we end today's edition of the Midday News. Subsequently, we'll hear from the lotto operators and writers in Ghana who are resisting plans by the NLA to reduce the commission for writers from 30 to 20%. Well, the NLA has been reacting, saying that he's asked nobody to reduce any commission. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com, and stories making the headline: Law School directs students to submit social media handles for monitoring. Also, Qatar 2022 Schlupp, Afenajan and Ashimero dropped from Ghana's squad. That's and more, myjoyonline.com. We have Living Word with Pastor Menzel to Bill. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for your company. Have a good afternoon.
Me tycoon. Hey, see the plenty money.